Well, Pastor Rick, my question for you today is a parenting-related question.
Okay. It's been years since I parented.
I know, but you're a grandparent. You're still in the game.
I am. And I remember a lot that we did and just finished,
Yeah, you just finished
memoirs.
It's fresh. You just finished a parenting book.
Memoirs.
Yeah. Memoirs. Memoirs of a parent.
That's right.
Memoirs of a parent. The question is, how do you, we live in a society in which, in many ways, young people are trained to be entitled, to expect that they deserve things, right? And, you see it in the political sphere, right? Everybody deserves healthcare. Everyone deserves a livable wage, right? Everyone deserves everything. We're entitled to everything, it feels like. Obviously, that filters down to kids. They grow up feeling entitled, like they deserve things. How do you guard your children from developing that mindset that they deserve things? Because, when you get out into the real world, you realize it doesn't work that way.
Right.
So how do you protect your kids from developing that kind of mindset? And then concurrent with that, how do you develop in them a heart of gratitude, being thankful for what they do have, even as they recognize that what they have, they don't deserve? Mm-hmm. How do you do that?
Give them nothing unless they beg. Then give them something, and they're grateful. Okay, next question. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's, this is a real issue because you're right. I mean, our society has kind of morphed into an entitlement society. The government exists to meet my needs.
Yeah, to take care of me.
To take care of me.
Yeah.
And that's not the purpose of government at all. The government is not designed to take care of you. They're to protect you from threats, foreign and domestic, of course. And they're there to be a means by which law is preserved and so on. But they're not to provide. That's not the government's responsibility. Aside from political commentary, or the issue is a spiritual one, because one of the key or chief characteristics of a believer is that they're grateful. In Romans 1, where God is describing the reprobate, he says one of the first characteristics of indictment is that they were not grateful. They refused to honor God. Neither were they grateful. So gratitude is one of the, I think, key characteristics of a believer. And that's generated within the believer primarily because when you get saved, you, by the Holy Spirit's enlightenment, become aware of the meritless basis for redemption, that we're not saved because we deserve to be saved. That's one of the things that Arminians choke on, that they feel that God owes the opportunity for everybody to be saved or have a choice to be saved, when it really is at the discretion and purpose of God, the eternal purposes of God, that people are saved, not because he owes it to anybody. And the thought is, if one gets it, then everybody ought to have the opportunity to have it. And that's an entitlement mentality, right? That's the idea of fairness, quote unquote. The ways that you do that with your children, of course, it has to be deliberate and intentional. You can't just assume that your children are going to be grateful children because they're sinners and they're not going to be naturally grateful. Children are born with an egocentric paradigm. Everything is about them, what they want, when they want it. And parents have the obligation to meet those needs. And the trick is to differentiate between what a child needs and what a child wants. And obviously they want what they need, but they want more than just what they need. They want other things. My father-in-law used to address this with my wife. He'd say, "Patsy, your wanter's too big. You got to cut your wanter," is what he used to say to her, meaning you have to want less things. And that's one of the ways he mentored her and taught her to differentiate between what she wants and what she actually needs. So I think that's something that's very important. I think one of the things that you do with your children, starting very young, I don't think it's too early to start, is to teach your children the arrogance that is sinful. And I think, the idea that God owes us things is a diminisher of grace and the awareness of grace, that God gives to us his unmerited favor, right? In James chapter 1, verse 17, there is that statement about being tempted, about the context is being tempted by being drawn away, carried away, enticed by your lusts. Mm-hmm. And when lust has conceived, it brings forth sin, and so on. Don't be deceived. And then he follows it up with verse 17. Go ahead and read verse 17.
Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change.
Here we find that God, everything that we have that's good, everything that we are given is given to us from God. Mm-hmm. And he's a reliable giver of good things. But then there's an indictment on the attitude that he ought to give me more, or that what he has given to me I deserve, or what he has given to me I own, it's mine, I deserve it, right? In 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 7, he addresses this arrogant attitude that many get, and he is talking about faithfulness as stewards in chapter 4, verse 1. Okay, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1 and verse 2. Stewards must be found trustworthy and faithful, right? He continues on, and he talks about in the stewardship, in the light of the stewardship, in verse 7. Go ahead and read verse 7.
For who sees anything different in you? What do you have that you did not receive? If then you received it, why do you boast as if you did not receive it?
So that's speaking to the issue of gratitude. Mm-hmm. So as stewards, we have been given things by the Lord to use for his glory. And everything that we have has been given to us by God, and therefore everything we have is a stewardship. It doesn't belong to you. And that's a lesson that children need to be given early, that it doesn't belong to you. It's not your toy. It's something that God has given to us. Everything that we have is given by God, and as a stewardship, we have to be faithful to him in the way we steward our toys. So share. Share with your friend. Don't fight over this. This is not yours. It's mine. No, it is not yours. It's not yours. This is stewardship. I remember one time I told my children, or one of my children, that does not belong to you. It's mine. I said, actually it's mine, and I'm letting you use it. Well, why? It's not yours, it's mine. I said, who bought that? You did.
Yeah.
I said, so it's mine. I'm just letting you use it. And they looked at me like, this does not compute.
There's a glitch in the
I don't
computer,
like this.
right? Yeah.
I don't like this. It's mine. And so I think that's an important thing. I think also that it's allowing a child to learn that nothing is free.
Yeah.
That it has to be paid for. Mm-hmm. And in light of that, instill within them a work ethic. That working for things is God's way. Not that you just get things, but you work for things. In Colossians chapter 3, look at verses 23 and 24. Go ahead and read those.
Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ.
So work is a way we bring glory to Christ. Mm-hmm. So we have to do our jobs, whatever job that is, whether it's taking out the garbage or whether it's weeding the lawn or the flower bed in the front lawn, or whether it's washing windows or cleaning your room or whatever it is. You have the responsibility to realize that the Lord is the one that needs to approve the job you've done. So you need to do your best. It needs to be good enough for who it's for. And instilling that biblical work ethic in the lives of your children. I know that there are some who give what they call them, allowances and things like that. We never did. I mean, I'm not opposed to allowances.
Sure.
Some parents give their children allowances, and that's how they teach the management of money and so on and so
Sure.
forth. And I'm good for that. But I wanted my children to realize that nothing is free. So I'm not going to just give you money and let you do with it whatever you're going to do. Unless, of course, I actually had this conversation with my children one time. They were asking me for allowances. I said, okay, I'll give you an allowance, but then I'm going to charge you for things. Because right now you're getting everything, and that's your allowance.
Right.
You have a bed in which you're sleeping.
Right.
You have food on the table every meal. You have clothes on your back. You have toys to play with. I give all that to you.
Yeah.
And when they got old enough to drive, Dad, I need an allowance for gas money. I said, okay, but then I'm going to charge you. If you're going to, I'm going to give you an allowance so that you can put gas in the car or whatever, so you can go wherever you want to go. Then I'm going to charge you something in order to compensate for the fact that I don't just give money out. It's not,
Right.
It's just not free.
Right.
There's no such thing as free money. And so
Despite all the internet ads that I've
Right,
seen.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. They haven't worked out yet.
no.
No. In fact, I've lost money I'm just kidding.
Wait, don't confess that.
I'm just kidding.
Just openly. Let's do that in my office later.
Yeah, that's a
You can-
counseling session.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
No, but that is a really helpful principle. It's true. Nothing is free. And I
And
have to
so
remind my kids all the time.
I said I gladly pay for all your needs.
Right.
And on occasion, if you want something, come to me and talk to me about it, and we'll decide whether it's a good thing for you to have. But nothing is free. So I'm giving you a bed, I'm giving you food, I'm giving you clothes, I'm giving you money for camp, I'm giving you, everything, you're going to play soccer. I pay for you to play soccer. I pay for you to play softball or baseball or whatever. If I'm giving you an allowance, that's on you. You got to pay all that. I mean, or would you rather just me meet your need? No, Dad, I think I'd rather
the
have
numbers
you meet
don't
my
work out
need.
very well
Right,
for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that kept them from feeling entitled, yet I did all that they needed.
Right.
I mean, I paid for everything they needed. But they never felt entitled because they're aware that that is their compensation. I am compensating them by meeting their need and even going beyond and giving them some of the things that they want. And they were grateful for it. They would thank me for, Dad, thanks for letting me play soccer. Thanks for letting me play basketball or whatever. They were grateful. And so they never felt entitled, right? I think that's an important principle. Another thing I think is to model for your children contentment and gratitude. You show that you're content with what you have and are grateful for what you have. Conversations with the family by saying things like, I am so grateful that God has given to us our home. It's so comfortable. And, when the kids were growing up, they all had their own rooms. And, so, there were, it was 6 bedrooms, and I was the only one that did not have my own room, but everybody else.
Well,
had
you
their
weren't
own
the
room.
only one. I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
Pat didn't either, right?
That's right.
I mean,
Although it was her domain.
Did it feel like that a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was her domain. Her closet, or
it was
whatever.
rented space for you.
Right?
Yeah.
Decorations. She didn't want that elk head hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
In the bedroom. I don't know why, but anyway, the issue is that I demonstrated gratitude for the home that God had given to us, how comfortable it is, and how actually luxuriant it is compared to many in the world that God has given to us such great comfort. And I would bring them back pictures of houses in Africa or other place, South America, where a kitchen was on a dirt floor underneath the stilts on which a house was raised to get it out of the flood. And every once in a while, their whole kitchen would just flood, and they'd have a new layer of silt that they had to clean and tamp down and pack and sweep. They were sweeping dirt floors. I mean, it's like, look at what we have.
Yeah.
God has given to us such luxury, and let's be grateful. And we would praise God, and we would thank God, and we'd go around and everybody would pray, thank God for their room, thank God for the blessings that He's given to them, and so on. That I think is huge to model that for your children. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 18, of course, we have that general command of toward gratitude.
Yeah. Paul writes, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you."
So give thanks. That's God's will.
Yeah.
That really mitigates entitlement when we are grateful for what He has given to us. You can't really demand or expect to be given things when you're grateful for what you've been given. Mm-hmm. There's something about that that displaces the sentiment of entitlement when you're grateful, and a sentiment of entitlement displaces gratitude, and that's the problem with that. Philippians chapter 4, Paul continues to talk about the issue of contentment in Philippians 4:11 through 13.
"Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me." I'm going to keep going.
14, yeah.
There we go. "Yet it was kind of you to share my trouble."
So there's this contentment that Paul speaks of there that has been wrought in his life by the ministry of the Holy Spirit and the experiences that he has gone through. He's learned that, man, God takes care of me.
Yeah.
Whether I'm in affluence or whether I'm in poverty, whether I'm in health or whether I'm in sickness, whatever situation I'm in, I'm able to look to the Lord, and He has cared for me. Mm-hmm. And that gratitude and contentment with what God has done is something we need to foster and develop in the lives of our children, right? And I think that's an important thing. Another thing is just as simple as modeling, of course, gratitude and contentment, modeling generosity. That I'm not the destination of all of God's good things. Mm-hmm. You know, it doesn't all just come to me and stop here. But I become a funnel through which God is able to bless others as well with the blessing with which He's blessed me. I'm able to then extend myself to others. Paul talks about how that we should work, no longer let no man steal, no longer steal, but rather working with his hands that he might have to share with those who are in need, right? That's the principle of our work, so that we might be able to be generous in these things. You have that verse right there. Just go ahead and read.
Well, I think
Ephesians.
It's Ephesians 4, right?
Yeah.
Verse 28, "Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need."
Right. So instead of taking from somebody else's supply, we're to work hard to gain our own supply so that people don't need to steal from us, but we have something to share with people who have need. That precludes their stealing, right?
Yeah, right.
So you're to develop a perspective that identifies that you're not the destination of everything. It's not all about you, right? That you're entitled to all the. No. God, if God blesses you and gives you things, it's so that you might be able to see the need around you and be a means by which God is able to bless that person as well. That really is an antidote for entitlement. When you recognize that you're to be used by God with the abundance with which He has provided you as a means by which other people are able to have their needs met. Mm-hmm. And that generosity, I think, is important. In Mark 10:45, there is the principle given to us that, again, is so contrary to a spirit of entitlement in Mark 10:45.
Mark 10:45, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many."
So an entitlement would be He came to be served, but that's not what He did. He came not to be served, but to serve. And that's a godly spirit. And we want to foster that in the lives of our children. Another one is, it's more blessed to give than to receive.
Right.
That's another verse that's powerful in that regard. And I think we need to avoid overindulging our children. Don't gratify every desire they have.
Right.
Don't spoil them.
It's good to say no to them.
That's a grandparent's job, to spoil children.
Yeah, we were joking how in some ways the grandparent helps in this case by training the kids to be entitled so that the parents have to work harder to unentitle them.
Right. It just makes it glaring. It's easier to deal with a glaring problem.
Right, exactly.
You know,
you
so
want
if
to
stage
highlight
kind
the
of-
problem so the parents really address it sometimes. Yeah.
That's
no,
right.
I found that to be immensely helpful. My parents have at times spoiled,
That's right.
spoiled
That's
the
right.
boys. Yeah.
Well, I think it's important. Proverbs 13:11 really, I think, is helpful in orienting and focusing in this regard. Proverbs 13:11.
Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it.
So not just dumping,
Yeah.
but little by little, allowing a person to, develop things. As a grandparent, I want to buy the entire Matchbox set, right?
Right.
350 cars and give it to my grandkid.
Yeah.
A parent will buy one at a time, give one here, one there, maybe 3 at a time or something. Or they're packaged in 5 and you give them, one. But a grandparent comes, oh, that's not enough. You need, and it comes in with this boop, 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 dumping, onto the kid. But we have to realize that that's not good for a child to get overindulged or to be given everything they want. They need to be told no. And the fit that they pitch because they've been told no is a helpful means by which you're able to shape the perspective of your children. They need to be having to wrestle through deprivation.
Yeah.
That isn't harmful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's an important life lesson. So if you're just indulging to avoid their fit,
Yeah. You're not helping them.
you're not helping them.
You're
You're loving
them.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. You're training them that they can throw a fit and get what they want.
Right.
Which won't work out for very long.
And all that is I don't want to deal with the fit, so I'm just going to give them what they want, and that's self-love
yeah.
because you don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's too inconvenient for you. If you love your child, you're going to say, okay, now it's time to pitch fit so I can deal with it, by saying no, not to do things so that they'll pitch a fit, but not avoid the fit because, you don't do what they want.
Right.
That's disaster as a parent. If you do that, that's just disaster. And then, finally to help and repeatedly over and over, constantly from the very youngest days, teach them the purpose of life, which is to glorify God.
Yeah.
And there's that verse in Isaiah 43, verse 7, that summarizes that idea for us.
Yeah. He's speaking of everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, whom I formed and made.
So I've created you for my glory. Yeah. So if we're going to be fulfilled, we need to not exist for ourselves, but for his glory, which Westminster, says chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever.
Right.
So it's not about you, it's about God. And your joy is in him. And that's what we need to teach our children. So
Good. Yep.
there you go.
Remind them that they're not the center of the universe.
Yep.
Yep. That's good.
There are some thoughts.
Appreciate those tips. Thank you, Pastor Rick.
Yep.